Yeah. Do you have? Hello, everybody. We are live. So today, Stephanie and I are doing our first live stream together, and are going to answer your questions and just talk about UX, and then we're going to do a fun little challenge on the Stephanie's channel. So, hi, Stephanie.
Hi.
How are you?
And before we forget, though, remember there's a Raspberry Pi giveaway.
Oh, yes.
So you have to watch both lives to get it.
Yes. So don't forget to go to, because if you're on the playlist, it will be easier just to go down to Stephanie's live stream that we'll join later, and there will be a giveaway at her live stream. If you are not on the playlist, make sure to go to her channel and, of course, subscribe and like and comment and all that good stuff.
Yes.
All that beautiful stuff. So, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. Woke up early for you.
Bright and early. Very nice. Thank you so much.
Of course. Got my coffee ready.
Yes, me too. So I'm ready to ask you some questions about UX and just things in general, because this month I'm doing UX January, and I want to go deeper into the profession to see what it's all about. Oh, very nice.
I want to show it because I don't want you to just hear some random water in the background. I'm like, I'm pouring coffee.
I'm pouring water somewhere. Yeah, actually, I was going to ask you if you're gonna do the coffee thing with your button, with the button that you created. Guys, if you haven't seen that video, it's amazing. It's basically remote coffee making with a French press.
Yeah. No, I can't. I don't know if you can see. It's over there.
Oh, there it is. Yes.
It's like my Estefannie Explains It All cemetery.
Is it like a museum?
Yeah, my little museum back here.
Yeah, you should totally make it into a museum.
It will become soon, trust me.
Seriously. But yeah, should we get started? I can see people are joining us already, and people are saying hi. Hi, everybody. We're just going to go through some questions, and then if you have any UX related questions, please ask them. We'll answer them first because this is mostly focused on UX. So let's go. Stephanie, let's talk about UX design just in general. What does it mean to you? Because we've spoken before, and you told me that you're not a UX designer by profession, but you do, right now you're working on some projects which will require you to be kind of a UX designer. So what is it to you? Tell me more about that.
Of course. Well, yeah, disclaimer, I'm not I don't have the theory background, but some of the experience as of the past few months. I am a software engineer, and I used to be a graphic designer when I was in college, so I can bring those two things together, and also documentation I find online to come up with UX ideas. As of recently, I started leading the UI team in my bigger team, and which makes me do a lot of UX decisions. So that being said, I don't know the straight answer, like the theoretical answer to what is UX, but I can tell you what it is to me. And UX is the thing that makes your product makes the user come back to use your product and makes it so easy to use that even if it's the first time, the user can navigate through it and find what they're looking for in less than 3 clicks or touches or whatever you want to call it, steps.
So basically, creating a design that will be super useful and intuitive for the user and this specific user.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is amazing, right? Because products should be focused on the user, right? And it wasn't this way all the time. You remember all the clunky things that we had to go through and sometimes still go through. For example, Wikipedia has, I don't know if it's good UX. It's super useful. That's why people come back to it. But there's just so much. And yeah, it's confusing. For example, the university that I'm working at, their main website for employees is super, like the portal is super not intuitive. So as someone who is an outsider, I'm like, oh my God, where do I go? How do I click it? So UX makes it easier for the user to actually find what they're looking for, right? And solve their problems.
Exactly, and make it less frustrating, because that's the last thing you want the user to feel.
Exactly.
You want them to come back and feel happy.
Yeah, if the user is frustrated, they're not going to use your app or your website or anything else that you're creating. Now, you're creating something very interesting, right? You're automating a machine that's very, very unique.
Right. So we can relate it to like a self-driving car. So we don't have to go too much into detail and people can relate to it. And the biggest problem is that, right? So this is a completely new UI. Think about it, like, how do you present a user that is used to doing certain tasks in a specific way, and then you're like, okay, remove all of those controls, and now I'm going to give you a screen. What do you present? How do you do it? And if the user is driving a car and focus on driving, how do you make this UI easy enough so that they can also pay attention to that at the same time, and not make it dangerous?
So multitasking while safety first.
Exactly. So like I said, I can use a lot, and I love Google's material design, and I use a lot of those, I guess, like not like constraints to designing, but I can't, because my user is not sitting by a computer or with a phone in a normal environment, indoors or, safely at home. Yeah. So yeah, no, go ahead.
And it's very interesting because the user that you're creating is not you, right? So you have to be very empathetic of someone else, because you're not going to use this self-driving vehicle, right? You're not the end user. So how do you find that? Just like, how do you find that?
So I think it's good and bad. It's good in the sense that I can bring ideas that someone with a lot of experience in that vehicle might not have, because they're used to doing certain things. Maybe they would think, well, we need a steering wheel in that UI, maybe, or something. Yeah. But someone who has never driven or something, they can think of a different way of driving. And so that helps me. But it also hurts me because I don't know a lot of things that they are used to, they might need, or how the processes and how they do them. So how do I deal with that? Just, I can watch it and I can ask all the subject matter experts at work. And that's all I can do, really, just a lot of research and watching and observing.
Fair enough. And let's talk about research, because you're talking about that, right? So how do you take your findings that you found by observing or asking questions and take it to the design? Do you have a process of sticky notes? Do you create wireframes? How does that work? Because UX kind of takes different stages normally, and I'll talk about those stages in the later videos if anybody's interested. But we won't go through them right now. But basically, talk to me about your process from research to actually implementation of the design.
Okay, so in the team I'm in right now, we're working in a very fast-paced environment. So there's not a lot of time to sit and create wireframes and then send them for approval, and then they come back and maybe then talk to the developer. So my strategy, I guess, is I sit and talk with the subject matter expert for a little bit. I understand it. And then I sit with the developer and we talk about it. And then if need be, it's usually just that. And then I just draw it on a board, and basically on the board by the developer's desk. And then I just take a picture with my phone and then take it into my documentation. But then if we need more, because there will be more questions from the developer to me, and then maybe I forgot to ask. And so we sometimes have like a meeting, just the 3 of us or 4 of us, and we discuss it as we draw it on a board, and literally go on a board and draw. This is step 1, and then draw again the next box and be, this is step 2, and this is step 3. So we draw it out, and then I take the picture. And then while it's being developed, I quickly create a document so that everything's documented and the reasons why we did things. Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah. So basically, in an ideal world, you would take all of that time and create beautiful diagrams with sticky, Post-its and all of that beautiful stuff, all of these guys, and just take your time to design it all and test it. But I guess a lot of the times in a real work environment, you just don't have time for it, right?
Exactly. Sometimes I try to create it before we develop it, but it usually happens at the same time.
Fair enough. Yeah, multitasking, huh?
Yeah.
And speaking of design, what's your favorite color?
It's actually red, but I can't use it.
Oh, you can't use it in your designs?
No, it usually means danger, so I can't.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
What about you?
That makes sense. Mine is like blue/purple. Well, let's say blue.
Okay, blue and red. That's perfect.
Blue and red. Well, our designs would be very, very
patriotic.
Yes. And patriotic to, the US and to my home country, which is Russia. We also have a red, blue, and white flag.
Oh, that's awesome. I learned something.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Those colors are used by so many countries.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But I wanted to talk to you about, because you were saying that sometimes there's not enough time to actually plan out your design so well, so you have to kind of multitask and everything. But once you actually get the design and you implement it, so it's an actual software, do you go back and reiterate it? Do you go back and you're like, oh no, I need to change this, like the users don't particularly like this button should be green, not blue? Do you do that?
I do, but I often can't. If that even makes sense. So there's a lot of things I want to change, but I can't until maybe the next release or whatever. And then sometimes I need to decide, okay, it's good for the system, but is it going to be good for the user now that they're used to this button right here?
Of course.
So there's a balance of, okay, what's best for the system and what's best for the user, and I need to take both into consideration.
Of course, yeah. It makes me think of the amount of times Facebook UI has changed.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember it in 2005 or something like that, when it was just the way it was? And then they introduced different features and you would get lost. You didn't know where to look for this button. Because, yeah. And then, oh my God, I remember when the cover photos came in and everybody was going crazy, like, oh, what am I going to put there?
And some people were very creative about it. They were trying to make something that integrated with their profile picture, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. Some people took advantage of it, but some people still don't really. Yeah, I still struggle with it, to be honest. I'm still like, okay, what do I put here? Do I put another picture of me?
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, it's kind of that thing where if UI changes so much all the time, users kind of get lost. But at the same time, if it's becoming more functional, right? Like a lot of programs become much more minimalistic and much more functional. And like you were saying, all of these design guidelines, they're amazing. Like Google Material Design,
so much information there, and they've done research for years and years. So definitely use that. That's like my go-to document.
Yeah, seriously, guys, if you haven't tried it, just Google it. Google material design. It's an amazing guide.
Google's material design.
Yes, exactly, exactly. But yeah, it's really, really good. And actually, they just changed the calendar UI using the new guidelines. And yeah, just at my time at YouTube, we were making presentations that were trying to highlight these guidelines and all that stuff. They really use it there. So yeah, I wanted to go back to the questions from the audience. Guys, if you have any UX questions, UX, sorry, maybe some of you don't know what it is. I actually didn't say what it is. It's user experience, but we did talk about it, what it is, just not what it stands for. But yeah, I'm gonna go into the live chat to see if there are any UX comments, because we're gonna answer those first. So let's see, starting from above. Hi, everybody, by the way. You're saying hi to both of us. So thank you very much for joining. There's a question, am I wrong for thinking CTAs are a huge part of UX? So from what I understand, CTA is call to action. And I guess, I mean, they are part of the UX, right? Because you want to take your user through your user journey. What would you say, Estefannie?
I don't know what CTX is. Can you tell me what it stands for again?
CTA is call to action, if I understand correctly, Gary. Call to action. So, like subscribe or click here.
Oh, yeah, call to actions. Right.
Yeah, so would you say that's a big part of the UX? Is that something that you think about when designing the user journey?
I don't think so, because I believe that's me as a user. I keep saying it because the UX is not making it do it. So if I'm calling to action, if I'm calling my viewers to please subscribe, even though there's like this huge giant red button, like what's going on? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. I completely agreed. It's like, it's interesting, right?
Yeah, but it might not be UX. I mean, it's right there. I don't know what else to do.
Exactly. But yeah, sometimes you need to say it. But yeah, I agree completely with you. UX should be intuitive enough that there shouldn't be like an explicit call to action.
Exactly. That's how I feel.
Seriously. Yeah. Erin Winnick is asking, I'm creating a new newsletter right now, and I'm collaborating with the UX team at my office. Any recommendations how I can make their life easier and be better collaborator with them? So just to understand, I'm going to talk through this question. You're doing a newsletter, just a newsletter to your clients, but you're working with the UX team and you want to see how you can collaborate with the UX team. Estefannie, do you have any recommendations on how UX designers, UX professionals would prefer to be communicated with from your experience?
Well, I could even bring my experiences both sides, because I've been in both places. I'm a software engineer too. And I think Erin is also, she's developing this newsletter, I believe.
Yes.
Okay. So hopefully, and your UX experts have some sort of technical background that you can come up with a common language between the two of you, excuse me. And for example, with some of the developers, I can talk with pictures and just draw it out. But with some other developers, I actually have to draw out more of a process view, like a diagram, kind of like an algorithm. So you just need to find the language between the two of you to see how you can better communicate the logic you're trying to convey. I think.
Yeah, that I think that makes sense. Communication is key, and finding what's the right style of communication so that both of you are happy and are communicating the right things. And I'm sure there's so many cases in the industry where it's like communication, when it's gone wrong, the design has to be reiterated or something like that, because just, yeah, the two parties didn't quite agree on what they were deciding to
Exactly. And also trust them. Sometimes they might have it might sound like a weird, crazy idea, like purple or whatever. And just trust them. They know what they're doing.
Exactly. They're professionals. They do this all the time.
Exactly.
There's a question from Imran. I'm sorry, Imran. I will not even try pronouncing your surname because I'm very bad at pronouncing things, and trust me, I struggle with English. But the question is, what are the requirements to be a UX developer? Stephanie, what's your take on that?
I'm sorry, I was reading a question. What?
What are the requirements to be a UX developer?
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. In my experience, I don't know if you go to college and there's a path to do that. I'm sure you have to go through some sort of, not just graphic design, but even psychology that goes like behind a user using this, or because there's a lot of cultural barriers, psychological and graphic design. So there's a lot to, I think, study. But then there's also the path I took, which was I did computer science and I'm a software engineer, and then ended up taking over a team where I make these kind of decisions too. And I love it. And the reason I was qualified too was because I had a graphic design background, and bringing those two things together helped me. So I don't know if there's a defined path to becoming a UX expert, but I think the more experience you have, the better you'll become anyway. So
yeah, I feel like there is no like right path to UX, right? There's no like you go to university, then you graduate, then you do this, you work on this project. It's kind of, people kind of end up coming to it from different flows, and like your example is just the best example, right? You were not in there, and then but you had the skills. So it's all about skills, guys.
Exactly.
And actually, a question from Varshith Yuvan. I'm very sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, but the question is how to learn UX, meaning the best book. I feel like there are a lot of books, but I feel like it's all about skills, right? It's all about the little projects. What do you think, Stephanie?
Well, I'd be interested in the course that you took. You said you took a course, right?
Yeah, I actually took a course with Red Academy. It was really good. It was in person and it was intensive. We did 5 weeks, 6 hours a week. Oh my God, yes, it was intense. It was after work. It was back when I was still at Google and I was trying to move countries. It was very intense, but it was very good. And there are also lots of online courses and different paths that you can take.
And again, Google material design is great.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. Actually, Jessie, who also works at university and feels my pain with the portal design, says +1 on material design.
Yes, material design.
Exactly. It's amazing. All right. I'm looking for Marie from Girl Knows Tech is here as well. So hi, Marie. But I'm looking for more UX questions. Okay, there's a good one. Are UX and UI designers the same?
Ooh, good question.
Good
yes
question.
And no.
So how, like, I find it sometimes difficult and confusing, even though I know the difference. Like, how would you describe it?
So the way my experience is, there's developers who are great UI developers, but just simply are like colorblind, or like they can't. Just the actual design part is not there, but their UI is just creating a front end to your data or whatever you're doing. So you don't have to be both, But then if you're both, you're amazing, because then first off, you will bring new ideas to the team. You can create amazing things, and then also if there's a UX person or someone making those decisions, they're gonna be very happy with you. Yeah.
I can imagine. Yeah, it's very interesting. Some companies have one person who does that, right? And then some companies have different roles for example, at Google, I know, because I was actually planning to apply for a role of a UX researcher. They divide the UX research, then UX design. I don't know actually if UI design is a different role. I didn't look, but they even distinguish these two things, you know. So like it depends on the company. And,
right.
And both roles are super important, because UX, you're designing the user experience, the user path, while a UI, you're designing what that user is going to see and interact with. And you have to work together. So to answer Cody's Spiranyuk question, who is better, UX or UI? Both are amazing.
Yeah, they're both hard. Every single part of the development process, they all have their skill sets, and they're all hard in their own way.
Yeah, seriously, they're both very challenging. You have to know the user. Like what we were saying earlier, it's so difficult because you need to get into the shoes of the user, and you're not that user. You have to be very empathetic and have a lot of emotional intelligence.
Yes.
And just looking at the questions that we haven't quite answered, guys, there are a lot of really good questions. If you want to, I will look at them, and I will try to answer them in my next videos. But I'm just looking for one last question, because we're going to go to Estefannie's channel very soon. And that's where we're going to have the giveaway. So make sure you go there.
Yes, if you want to win a Raspberry Pi and watch us have fun with the challenge, then definitely go.
Yes.
Now. Well, not now.
Yes.
Soon.
Very, very soon. So 2 more minutes left. And one last question. Sorry, guys, whose questions we haven't answered. You can go to my Instagram and comment on my post that I will post today, and I will try to answer all of those questions. Last question is from Marco Makismovic. How to practice UX, and what is the most important part of it, Estefannie? It's kind of a rhetorical question.
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
How to practice UX, and what is the most important part of it?
Oh, wow. That's a hard question, because
it's a rhetorical question.
Yeah, okay. To practice UX, it's like the same way as programming to me. If you want to become a better programmer, find a problem, stick to it, and solve it. And then do the next one. The next one, you'll practice that way. Now, UX is sort of the same way, but to find a problem, you're going to need to find a user. So it's a little bit different, but I would do the same approach. I would just, if you have a little app you made, or a website, or even if you haven't made anything, volunteer. If you're at school and there's a computer science department and there's people doing something, just volunteer to become their UX person and help them design it. And the more you do, I think the better you become, and try to have as many different users as possible, not your usual mobile app user or website. There's so much. There's medical, there's aerospace, there's a lot of industries that need this, and there's no defined guidelines for them.
Yeah, definitely. And during my course, there were some of the instructors who have designed apps for older people, for example. And you know that then the requirements are to make bigger buttons, for example, or something that's very, very intuitive to someone who is not naturally intuitive with technology. But on that, shall we wrap this one and go to your channel?
Let's do it. Just give me like 2 minutes, because this is the first time I do it. And
yeah, guys, if you're on the playlist, just click on Estefannie's on Estefannie's live stream, which should be below. Or if you're not on the playlist, find her channel, and we're going to be live there in around 2 minutes.
Yes.
Awesome. And don't forget, there's going to be a giveaway and a challenge. What is the challenge going to be?
You'll find out.
Find out. I'm stopping broadcast.